Today on Locked On Red Wings, Kane, Fischer, and Tarasenko speak to the media, and Danielson shined at development camp.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty is also host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist at the Detroit News, so go give his other work a listen and a read as well. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down and the sports stop sporting like we want them to, go to FanDuel because they're hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Scotty, so today is kind of a grab bag episode of a few different things. We're going to talk about the media availability that Tarasenko, Kane, and Christian Fischer did on Monday afternoon, and then also going back a little bit week prior. We didn't talk a whole lot about development camp because there was just a lot happening last week. We mostly wanted to highlight how good Nate Danielson looked at development camp because unfortunately there's not a lot to take away from development camps because it's hard to really assess youth playing against other youth besides who, rose above the top of the rest. And, we'll have a couple comments on MBN as well as Axel Sandin Pellikka, but not a lot to say about that. And we'll save that for segment 3. But Scotty, before we get to anything that's on today's show sheet off to the sidebar there, did you see that the NHL signed an agreement with New Era to provide NHL licensed hats to every team in the league, which I am thrilled about.
Yeah, no, it's, I don't know, the last 2 years when it comes to NHL apparel has just been a roller coaster. There's just been a lot of news, a lot of ups and downs, and this is kind of the latest. But yeah, obviously no issue with it.
Well, I'm a big fan of it just simply because it means that you'll have another option that's not Fanatics. Like, this is a Fanatics hat right here, this Vegas Golden Knights secondary logo hat, and this is probably, of all the Fanatics products I've ever had, this is the only one that's actually any decent quality. My favorite brands to go for when it comes to hockey stuff, now that Adidas is gone, is 47 brand and New Era. So I'm really happy that New Era has this new contract because it gives us an option of quality. Consistent quality, I should at least say. I hope 47 continues to make products for the NHL, though, because their products are so good. I love the 47 brand stuff. In fact, I think that brown Carhartt hat on the Osgood jersey in my background is a Carhartt 47 hat. I have the black Carhartt 47 hat where they did that collab. So, all my favorite merchandise for the Red Wings that's not like a jersey is 47 brand when I can get it. So, but New Era is, right up there in terms of quality to me, so I'm just excited to have that extra option.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Scotty, now when it comes to the conversation we want to have with the media availability, you want to start with Patrick Kane. I think that's probably the most interesting for folks to listen to talk after he won a term, got 1 year. We thought maybe he'd leave, but then on the eve of free agency, he signed and stayed. I think people are going to be most interested to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I think there's honestly the most to take out of his as well. This isn't, these player availabilities aren't oozing with content and just have conversations left and right like the Yzerman one did. But I do think that there is some good to take out of all of these, really. And I think Kane's is probably the biggest. The biggest thing that jumped out to me was it almost sounded like he was selling the Wings to everybody else in the league almost, right? At one point he explained, the suburbs of Detroit and how nice of an area it was, how nice the city of Detroit itself was, talked about the practice facility being underneath, right? The practice rink being underneath the rink upstairs, and LCA being an awesome venue, and how the organization treats all their players with first class, and et cetera, et cetera. And it was just, it really did see at one point, I think he literally said, for everybody out there, the Wings treat you right or something like that. I was like, man, this really sounds like a sales pitch, Patty.
Kind of is. It is a little bit of a sales pitch. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
He's doing his best. Like, if you have Patrick Kane, who's going to be a future Hall of Famer, 3-time Stanley Cup winner on your team, and he's returning, of course you're going to be like, hey, Patrick, here are the guys we're trying to get. Reach out to them and see if you can't lure them in. And it worked to some degree, clearly, with Vladimir Tarasenko, because they talk about how like they talked a little bit. But when it comes to Patrick Kane, that seems to be a reoccurring theme. And, of course, some of this is a little bit of lip service when it comes to media availability with your new team. You're always going to be like, oh, this is a team I wanted to go to help accomplish X. If you're a Stanley Cup contender, it's going to be win the Stanley Cup. If you're a rebuilding team, it's take the team into a direction of winning. Things of that nature. But this is a reoccurring theme in the Yzerman era where he's able to get guys of note and guys of quality and high caliber to come to Detroit and sell them, and then now you can have that guy then sell it to other people as well. I think there is truth to the culture that is being built here, and I think when Patrick Kane says that, while yes, it's probably about 50% lip service, I think it's also 50% there's truth to that as well.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about the drama surrounding him going into free agency and where he was going to go, and you and I were pretty keen on he wasn't going to come back, for a reason, right? Like that was something that we weren't very confident in, and so him coming back on a 1-year deal at that, I think is a testament to some appreciativeness within the organization.
Is that a word?
I don't know, and
appreciation.
I don't think so. Yeah, that's
appreciation.
The word. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
he's a writer, by the way.
I'm gonna drop that. In a piece here. No, but I do think that there is something to be said for despite the fact that he didn't get term and whatnot, he still wanted to come here. Obviously, money talks. They gave him the contract that he wanted, etc. I get all that, but I do think it's nice to have a legend of the game that's on your team kind of have that little sales pitch to the rest of the players out there.
Well, too, he mentioned as well, because you mentioned that there. He talked about, they asked him about the 1-year deal and the performance bonuses, and he started to kind of dig into why he accepted a 1-year deal when he reportedly wanted term, and then kind of deflected into talking about the performance bonuses. But the way I inferred the little he did talk about the 1-year deal was because he didn't want to have to move and he was already here, right? So like a 1-year deal for him, he's already here. He doesn't have to uproot his family to move to another city if he's already in said city. So I kind of reaffirms what we maybe thought when he initially signed the contract, that well, he's accepted a 1-year deal with Detroit, and it only would have been with Detroit because he was already in Detroit.
Yeah.
Now, and he talked about the performance bonuses too. He says, like, and kind of similar to what I think Yzerman noted as well, is like it was almost fortunate that he's 35 because this allows he and Yzerman to agree on a salary that helps the team, but also gives him an incentive to earn more money down the way, because you can only get performance bonuses, I believe, if you're 35 years old. Of age or older. So that whole contract situation makes a lot more sense now when you understand the two sides and where they were coming from in the negotiations. I also love specifically, and this made the rounds on social media, the love that he gave to Ken Daniels. And he talked about the atmosphere at LCA, how the organization and the fan base accepted him when he was a player on a team that was huge rivals with Detroit when they were, both those teams were in their primes, Chicago being the up-and-coming team and Detroit being the team that was in the twilight years of their cup window, so to speak. And to have the Red Wings embrace him, the fandom embrace him, and have LCA rocking. And then Ken Daniels, he says he's listened back on some of those calls and it still gives him chills. And it kind of is like Ken Daniels, certified free agent signer. Like he is the allure to come into Detroit, The Athletic rated him the #1 broadcast in.
Right. You can get all your
NHL,
highlights broadcasted by one of the best in the business. That seems like a reason to come play for the Wings, baby.
Mm-hmm. And he said too that he can't even imagine what this place would be like in the playoffs with how they sounded down the stretch, being that close to the playoffs, and that he, obviously wanted to help bring that team there. And there's higher expectations on this team this year. And God dang it, there should be. I know we just talked about, is this team any better? And how the team's laterally as good. But I love hearing the players say I think Christian Fischer said it, so we'll get to that later, but there's a chip on this team's shoulder right now, and they feel the urge to be better. And Kane as well. I'm kind of shotgunning all of his comments, but they're just flowing into one another. But he said that he wants to take his game to another level after having a full offseason of training. And I, for one, cannot wait for Patrick Kane to hit another level when coming off of a surgery and not having skated in 2 months, was able to put up a point per game with the Detroit Red Wings. Imagine what I keep saying it, but imagine what a full offseason of hockey training Patrick Kane's going to look like.
I'm going to keep imagining it. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. That was aggressive, Bri. You got a little fired up there. I
think Patrick Kane's going to, I really do think that he's going to be able to take his game back to up a notch this season. I don't think he's going to be a 40-goal scorer, 100-point scorer like he was in his prime. But if he can stay at a point per game and give you 80 points at 35, 36, that is ridiculous for a guy his age. But assuming he stays healthy, again, that's the big if, I don't see a reason why he can't when that is how good he looked. Rusty. That was him rusty last year. That's insane.
It is, yeah. Unbelievable talent, obviously, and man, I'm starting to get really, really excited for the season. I need to pump the brakes.
I know it's July 10th as of listening to this, and so we are still a couple months away. July's the 7th month. We have 3 months. It's actually 3 months to the day to the home opener against Pittsburgh.
But who's counting?
Not me. Scotty, should we get to a break and then talk a little bit Tarasenko?
I think so.
Let's talk of Tarasenko after this. Got to talk to you guys today about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easier to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, let's talk a little bit about Vladimir Tarasenko's comments in his media availability with Detroit media. What stood out to you first and foremost? What was the biggest thing?
I think there was a few. We can kind of loop it back to Kane and talk about the fact that there was a little bit of a conversation had there between him and Kane as one of the, reasons or one of the selling points to bring him here. Again, we just talked about Patrick Kane kind of was being a salesman a little bit on the Wings organization and the city of Detroit and whatnot. But I think really in general, just his answer to the play style questions, I think was what really stood out to me. And some of them were like kind of funny, make you smile and laugh answers. But I really do think that, this organization brought this dude in to score, and they are going to rely on the system and the other additions they made to play defense. And I think hearing him talk about, I really alluded to, like, I didn't come here for no reason, like came here to play, legitimate competitive hockey type of thing, whatever, and whatnot, et cetera, et cetera. I think the biggest thing to me was just like the dude knows why he was brought in, right? Like talked a lot. He's like, offense, baby. Yeah. Like I'm trying to put the puck in the back of the net at the end of the day. And I think that this, again, as we talk about from last season, that is something that this team thought they were going to get in DeBrincat. And DeBrincat wasn't a bad hockey player, but didn't provide that, who's going to score the goal when you need it most type of production. And I don't think anyone really did that. And I'm not saying Tarasenko is going to be that person either. I don't think anyone's expecting 40 out of him, but I do think that there's something to be said for his mindset, which is very clearly, I'm going to score the puck.
Right. And I loved that when I think it was Helene St. James asked him about his two-way game. And he that's when he said, I still like to score goals, as if to, and like, there's a little bit of a language barrier there either. So I don't want to overly dissect too many of his comments too. So like some of it could have just been like, a slight miscommunication, misunderstanding. But when he said that, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm expecting out of Vladimir Tarasenko. Because he did comment too. He's like, it's not that I don't want to play defense. He said, it's just sometimes I don't understand how. And I was like, I love this guy. I love this guy.
Very open and honest.
Yeah. It's like, it's not that I don't try. I just sometimes get lost. Just love that. I mean, that's what you brought him in to do, right? Because we talk about it. Obviously, the team's biggest need was to get better defensively. And I think, and we've talked about that in yesterday's episode, the episode before that, and the episode before that, they have gotten better marginally at defense. But you still need a guy in the top six who can score goals. Because the chances of you going on the open market and signing a guy who's both a top six goal scorer, but also plays responsible defensively is very hard to do because those guys just don't hit the open market. And you had a hole on your top six, and he feels that he's going to score goals. That's going to be his primary role. If he's on line with Fischer Kane, they're going to be in the offensive zone, pretty much deployed exclusively there, I would imagine. So. It helps that like whatever center they're playing with, Larkin or Comfort, can help make up a little bit with their lack of a two-way game, with the fact that those guys have really good two-way games, Comfort and Larkin, that is. And plus, like, you don't need to play a really good defense if you just have the puck the whole time, right? And Tarasenko, he hunts down the puck. That's something that everyone kept mentioning, is he hunts down the puck, he gets it in the offensive zone. So I thought that was just really funny. I thought the other great comment that he had too was they asked him about coming to Detroit and the Russian 5, and he was like, yeah, when I got my very first PlayStation and NHL video game, I played as the Red Wings because of the Russian 5. Like, talked about how big of an influence they were on him. And, of course, you're going to win a lot of hearts very quickly by mentioning how you played as the Red Wings growing up because of the Russian 5, who are very near and dear to every Metro Detroiter's heart.
Absolutely, and I think that naturally progresses to what number is he wearing, bud?
Oh, dude, are we having that conversation right now, dude? Are we having the? Is he wearing
the Russian 5 Impact, and he's worn 91, and I'm just curious as to what you think he's gonna rock on the back of the jersey this year.
He's worn two numbers in the NHL. Number 10 with the Panthers, which is retired by the Red Wings, and then number 91, which is unofficially retired by the Red Wings, obviously because of Sergei Fedorov. So if there was ever a player that could wear 91, I feel like he would get permission from, I'm assuming it's like a Sergei Fedorov thing, like unofficially retired. It would be Vladimir Tarasenko, a fellow, Russian, but I just feel like the Red Wings have to make a decision here. Like, poop or get off the pot. Like, make your decision on whether or not you're retiring 91 or not, because this is ridiculous that this number, nobody can wear it, but it's also not up in the rafters. Just make a decision. Let somebody wear it or not. Like, it's because you also can't invert that number. You can't wear 19 because that number is in the rafters, and you can't invert 10 because 1 is in the rafters. So I don't know what he's gonna wear, dude.
I don't know either. I really just wanted to kind of stir stuff up there. I have no indication on what he's going to wear. Obviously, nobody does. I don't think it's going to be 91. And the reason why is because the Red Wings tweeted out, they were like, oh, guess the jersey number. It's like, I feel like if it was 91, they'd make a much bigger deal out of it than just
I feel like, you sure the Red Wings weren't just stirring the pot?
But
did you hear that?
What? No.
That was... Oh, Lacey is angry meowing at me right now.
Oh.
Anyways, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I have no clue. I have absolutely no idea. But we'll see. Like I said, I just have a hard time believing the Wings are like, hey, everybody guess what jersey number he's going to wear if it's going to be 91.
Cat Cam.
Nice, Cat Cam.
I was trying to pick her up, but she doesn't like
Looks really comfortable, to be honest.
She's just lounging.
Absolutely mobbing.
Yeah, this is the episode we're having today, guys. Very lax, very chill. Yeah, man. The other comment I thought was really interesting out of Tarasenko is he did mention, too, that with Ottawa, he played on the left side some, but it took him some time to get used to. Because, again, we talked about it the other day. Somebody has to move to the left side because they have like 3 or 4 right side wingers. And we were curious, like, do you move Kane to the left side? I find that hard to believe because he's so like he's so strong on the right side. Raymond killed it on the right side this year. So we kind of defaulted to it being Vladimir Tarasenko, and having that confirmation, because of course we don't watch Ottawa Senators games super closely, that he has played on the left side some is nice, but also is that like a good indicator that he should continue to be that on the left side, because Ottawa wasn't very good last year.
Right. Yeah. No, that's the big question. But I also, to your point, I'm not really sure what else you do. Like I feel like it's kind of just by default has to be him. I guess to your point, you could try Raymond on the other side, but that would, I don't know. I think it kind of has to be him, unless you want to do a top line of Larkin, Raymond, Tarasenko, and you move Raymond instead of Vlad. But even that, like, you could just move Vlad on the left side there and move Cat down. I don't know. I agree with you. I think it kind of has to be. It was interesting to hear him talk about it, but I think that's going to be honestly one of the bigger storylines heading into the preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do another quick break, and when we return, we'll talk about Christian Fischer and a little bit about Nate Danielson at development camp. So stay tuned for that in segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. So I'll talk to you guys today about FanDuel. You love sports. We all love sports. I mean, that's why you're here listening to us talk about the Red Wings in the middle of the offseason. But right now, there's not much sports going on. Heck, the MLB is about to head to an all-star break too, and then it's going to be really nothing going on. But that doesn't mean you can't still bet on sports, and that's where FanDuel comes in, because FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, Christian Fischer spoke as well. In fact, he opened it joking about how he surprised everyone is still in the Zoom meeting after he was, because he was the last one of the 3, kind of self-deprecating in the way that not in the same caliber of Tarasenko and Kane. But, outside of him being just an absolute jokester, what stood out to you about Fischer's interview?
He's a dog, man. I just love him. I love him so unbelievably much. I think, honestly, there wasn't a ton here, but I do think that one of the biggest things was just talking about him really wanting to stay with the organization. He kind of half-heartedly joked as well. He was like, yeah, I can't just say, like, oh, I want to be here, nowhere else. Like, I have to play the game, and I can't just, like, openly say, as a free agent, I don't want to go anywhere else. But this is where he wanted to be, and I think he knows his role really well. And I think him talking about the defense a little bit was cool to hear. But really, I think the biggest thing was what you alluded to earlier, and just the chip on his shoulder type of mindset that this team apparently has going into the season, which I think is great, and what I think everybody wants to hear. Everybody wants them to get over the hump. And I'm really glad that Christian Fischer is going to get an opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that maybe we haven't talked about enough, because, it's easy to talk about skill and, analytics and stats, but it's hard to talk about the mental side of the game, because that's one of your quote unquote intangibles, not untangibles, intangibles.
There you go.
And I think there is something to be said about the chip on the player's shoulders about how March unfolded. And he talked about that too. That was one of the things he mentioned. Like, they put themselves in a position to succeed and then had a down month. And there's a chip on their shoulders now to prove that they can do it and take a step forward. And I think that is going to be a real driving force for a lot of the returning players on this team this year, to make sure they don't do that again, to become a more consistently good hockey team defensively and up front at 5-on-5. So I like that response from him. I also liked when he said that as soon as the season ended, he called his agent and was like, I want to stay with Detroit, and then followed that up by saying, but you can't say that when you're a free agent. Right. So he made sure to wait until he signed his contract to be like, I wanted to be here. And I fully believe that, because, this is a player that Yzerman mentioned was loved in the locker room, I believe, and the media asked Christian Fischer about his impact on the guys in the locker room, and just his role as a really defensively responsible winger and at times center who can play penalty kill. Like, you need guys like Christian Fischer on your team. And let's not forget, too, like, you would think, like, I had it in my head, like, most of the season last year that he was, like, 33. He's younger than me, Scotty. He's 27 years old. He just turned 27 back in April. Like, this is I know, 28. This is a young player, a young, good role player who, in his own words, believes he still has more offense to give and actually has the track record to back that up. Not that he is going to go out there and put up 40, 50 points, but he put up 27 points with the Arizona Coyotes the year prior. That was a bad Coyotes team, so he probably had a little bit more of an increased role offensively just because of that. But this is a guy who believes he is a double-digit goal scorer, and if he can help supplement those goals with an extra 5, get up to 10 goals, I mean, that's pretty impressive for a guy who's, a solid two-way forward role player.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something we talked about a lot during the season, and I really do think he's going to be like kind of have a pivotal role on this team. Like, to be honest with you, like, he's going to be a fixture in the bottom 6 and on the penalty kill, and that's something that this team, like you said, desperately needs.
He also called Tarasenko a thick boy, which was another moment where his personality just shows through. He also was he was doing this call from a boat in Italy.
Dude, yeah, just showed up on a yacht. Just showed up. Like, it's just incredible aura. It's just incredible, just presence there to be had. I love that dude.
Every locker room needs that guy, and it helps that he's so much fun. I love Christian Fischer. And when the Red Wings first signed him 2 years ago, and we were completely undervaluing like the type of role he was going to have. Remember, we were saying he was going to be a 13th forward, and we really didn't know heck of a lot about him. Yeah. Robin, the Locked On Coyotes, now Locked On Utah Hockey Club host, reached out to us, and she said, she was like, he is going to be one of your favorites, and she was completely right.
Correct. Yeah, nailed it.
Scotty, you want to talk real briefly about development camp? We didn't talk at all about it really, outside of a couple availabilities from Dan Cleary and Trey Augustine, I believe we talked about as well.
Pavel, right? Yeah.
We were at Pavel. We talked about Nate Danielson really shined at development camp. I mean, if you watch any of the highlights from the tournament or even just the camp in general, because some of the some of the journalists were posting clips online. Every time Nate Danielson touched the puck, he was head and shoulders above the rest of the players at development camp. And in part, you would expect that. 9th overall pick, he's had a full year to develop in the Red Wings system. He had a great year with the WHL before finishing his year with the Grand Rapids in the playoffs. He looked like the best player on the ice pretty much the entire time. And while his team may have been eliminated in the semifinals of the 3v3 tournament, he looked like he probably, if he really wanted to, taken over the game.
Yeah, no, that was easily the biggest takeaway here. And there wasn't a ton to take away. At the end of the day, it's still development camp, like we've mentioned here a couple times already. But I think if there is anything to take away, it was that Danielson looked really good. And there was already some rumblings about what are his odds of making the team out of camp, like this fall, right? And I if that does happen, I kind of compare it to Raymond a little bit, right? Like, if you would have asked anybody, I remember Nolan and I talking about it at the time, like, you would have asked anybody, the likelihood of Raymond making the team in the fall, the spring prior or the summer prior, everybody would have told you slim to none. And then not only did he make the team, but he was on the, second or first line off rip. And so I think that is not that Danielson's obviously not going to be in the top 6 if he makes the team out of camp, but I do think that there is, I'm not saying it's likely. I would still lean towards no, and maybe that's me just not having the guts to go out on a limb and say something like that, like Nolan actually did, oddly enough. But
that's his biggest W, man.
It is. No, it's to this day. He still talks about it like a disgusting amount of time. But it is one of those things, where I think you're going to start hearing the rumblings more and more. And if he looks really good in the early part of camp or in the preseason, those voices, they're going to keep getting louder.
Just like the ones in my head. Anyways, Dan Cleary also mentioned, spoke very highly of Nate Danielson as well. He said, and this is a quote from Jonathan Mills, the Detroit Red Wings beat writer for NHL.com. So to attribute that to that article, he said, Dan Cleary said, I thought Nate Danieslon was great every single day. Came in terrific shape. I know we speak a lot about Nate, but he talks the talk and he walks it. He does everything right, and he showed the way in his testing, preparations, and professionalism. The way he handles himself, his maturity, and the way he talks to the media, he is a really great young kid. So not only is he impressive on the ice, but he's impressing Dan Cleary in the way that he carries himself on and off the ice. He takes his preparation seriously, comes to camp in shape. Like, this is a kid that, again, I don't want to overstate development camp, but he's on the right track. Like, this is a kid who's gonna be an NHL player, and when you have that much of positive feedback from developmental camp, and like not a single thing even mentioned about what he has to work on there, like
Right.
it's really reassuring to know that like your draft picks are coming along really well. And you mentioned about having a shot to make the team out of camp. It's going to be tough for even Mazur and Casper to make the team out of camp just because of the way this roster is set up. But if they earn their spot, they're going to be on the team. Like the roster, just because you have a bunch of guys signed to NHL contracts doesn't mean that young kids can't make the team if they earn it. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch. This might be the most exciting preseason we're going to have in years, because you're going to have three first-round picks, including once you include Sebastian Kosa. What you think? Will Axin Sandin-Pellikka be there? I'm not sure. I think his season might already have started at that point. I don't know the SHL seasons very well. But like, you're going to have a lot of top-end talent in your prospect pipeline playing in the preseason, and on top of guys like Carter Mazur and, Antti Tuomisto. So I'm really looking forward, again, counting down the days, right? Like, already talking about preseason 2-3 months in advance, but I'm really looking forward to it. Michael Brandstad-Niedgaard was also at development camp. He actually looked rough the first day, but that wasn't his own fault. Apparently his skates were messed up and he was just stumbling around, but he had a really nice goal in the tournament as well. As obviously after that first day and he got his stuff figured out, he looked a lot better, looked like a top 15 draft pick, and Axel Sandin-Pellikka's skating was everything as advertised as well. So yeah, it was good. It was nice to see these players.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to, again, unless you're just clearly better than everyone else like Danielson was, it's hard to, like nitpick performances in them, but it's always interesting to watch. And what?
Finish your comment. This is dumb. Finish your comment.
No, that's pretty much it, man. What I got an eye roll mid-sentence.
It wasn't you. It was just the Red Wings made a tweet, right? And this Trivia Tuesday, because we're recording this on Tuesday, said, on what day did the Detroit Red Wings acquire Alex DeBrincat from the Ottawa Senators? That was their trivia for Trivia Tuesday. Do you know what day?
Am I supposed to? I don't think I know the exact day.
I think it was July 10th of 2023. It was either July 9th or July 10th, and they're doing that because it's like the anniversary, essentially, of acquiring Alex DeBrincat.
That's cool, man.
I just saw that because I was like, oh boy, notification, and it was not. It was not anything exciting.
That's great.
Don't worry. I don't eye roll you ever.
That's not true.
Anyways, anything else?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
We do ball. Hope you guys enjoyed a much more casual kind of grab bag style episode. We'll be back. We have the next couple days already planned out, and I think they're going to be good conversations. So please stay tuned for that, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.